We've never welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back with the show. We said we'd bring you once a month. What's going on with you? That's right. We are live tonight again on a Monday night at 9:30. We are as lively as a post from Martin Dubravka's wife. What's going on with you, Mark? You all right? Ooh.
Yeah, I saw that just before we came on. I was like, and do you know what? I get it. I completely get it from her perspective as well. I kind of do. When you've had the promise of that amount of cash thrown at you and you agree to stay, and then all of a sudden you dropped like a hat. I sort of get it.
I don't see Martin Dubravka post about what's going on in Hollyoaks, mate. I don't think his business should be posting too much about football. But
I don't think that affects her bottom line, though, does it? So
yeah, it didn't affect our handbag stash. I'm pretty sure, but we'll get stuck in.
It's good to see everybody as well in the chat and everything. It's nice to be on. So hello everybody again. I am still
well.
I do still exist.
It's a chat with a difference. It's a chat with a difference. Yeah, it is tonight. So this show is called What's Going On With You. Pretty soon, Mark is going to bang out the link, which is for members only. And we're going to get some of you on to talk about what you think about Newcastle United at the minute, the game at the weekend, and just what's going on with you in general. But that game at the weekend, Mark, just while you're loading that, it was absolutely mental. We've already covered it in post-match and a couple of other stuff as well. But really, the Jekyll and Hyde of Newcastle United, both sides of this football club, the one that has you purring with excitement in terms of what this club could be, what these players can do. And then the second one has you tearing what little hair you have left out going, what in the fuck are these lot doing in the second half? They can't kick their own arse. What was your viewpoint of the game? Was it pretty much that, a game of two halves?
Oh, I mean, you couldn't be more cliched, could you? And it was the very definition of a game of two halves. The first half was absolutely brilliant from an attacking point of view, and the way that Newcastle, I texted you, didn't I? And I said, that's exactly how Newcastle need to play. They need to play with pace. They need to be direct, not long balls, but direct. Move the ball quickly. Get the ball to the forward players as quickly as bloody possible, because you get into those positions and you put the defence under pressure. You bypass the midfield. It's exactly what they did. And they were sensational, that first half, apart from the first 15 minutes, which I thought was ropey. And the second half, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what happened. They just fell off. It was like falling off a cliff. They just disappeared. No one's long balls. No long balls for this. But it's that direct play. It's that speed. And that was gone. And the intensity was gone. And they crumbled. And an extra 10 minutes, and I agree with Nuno to that, an extra 10 or 15 minutes in that game, and Newcastle probably don't walk away with anything, because they were properly sort of rattled in that second half. And we bar Elanga putting one over the bar from under the bar, and a couple of really good headed opportunities. I mean, it could have ended 5-4. It was just an absolutely bonkers game.
Well, we can't make sense of it, but maybe somebody who can make sense of it is our first guest of the night, who's popped in to tell us what's going on with him. It's Chippers. You want to bring Chippers in, Mark? We'll hear what Chippers has got to say about it. How you doing, mate?
All right, good.
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. What did you make of all that craziness at the weekend, pal? You look like you're already recovering from it, I think.
I'm just a little bit cool at the minute, so I'm trying to get out of that, but I'm trying to get out of the game yesterday as well, and I just shakes my head. More questions left than answers, I suppose, as the first half where we're blowing away, and the second half we basically just had our pants down and just said, well, we'll take it. Well, it was just Man City our again the second half, and there was nothing. There was no leadership. There was no fight. There was nothing. And Eddie House caught up the day and said, well, that wasn't what the game plan was. So are the players not listening to the manager anymore? Or I don't get it. I really don't. And it's worrying going into this game, because if we start Liverpool as we finish that game, then you will be calling with Katie Price on Wednesday night, because it'll be an absolute twanging. It really will. I can't see be anything else, unfortunately.
I was going to say a couple of big tits at the back, possibly, mate. Do you think that was the biggest issue in terms of the defence? Was that the big concern for you, Jim?
Well, I've seen Steve Guttenberg's in Sluice Harbour today, so they must be ready for the new Cocoon films for our old defence. But no, I don't get why they're trying to pass out the back when they clearly cannot do it. It's why we keep persistent doing this when players can't do it. It's just not. I know Eddie wants to play that way, but there's times yesterday where you just don't, when teams are pressing high up on you, because we've just asked them on the and I don't know what to believe. I came away from that game yesterday after watching it. Obviously, I came on didn't watch your live stream, and I felt like it was a defeat rather than a win, because that second half was just too bad to be true. And the fact he had to bring Tonali on the sort of 70 minutes, even though he hasn't trained all week, was a massive risk, because if he got injured yesterday, he'd have got pelters for bringing him on. So I thought Bruno was a shambles as well. His captaincy wasn't there. It was like he G'd the fans up, but I didn't see him go to the players and G them up after we conceded any of the goals. And I want somebody to do that. I want him to go up to the players and say, listen, mate, get your head in the game. And to me, he needs to get his own head in the game, because he went missing second half for captain. And there's too many of them that went missing second half, and that worries me. I mean, Dan Burns supposed to be a captain as well. He was a shambles. Fabian Schär, I mean, Jesus wept. I mean, I know the women like him topless, but my God, he should keep his top on for his performances at the minute, because that's shocking. I want a defender who can defend, and he can't even pass the football, never mind defend. And I feel for Kraft, because he's given him a new contract. Bring him on. He can't do any worse than what's been done there. And just like I felt for Dubravka as well, because Nick Pope yesterday, my days. I mean, the first goal, he may as well have been on the halfway line. He was nowhere. And again, like I've said before, there's more questions to me than answers, and we're not going to get them, because the media tomorrow will just say to Eddie, have you had what you call it, marmalade on your toast for breakfast, or have you had flakes for breakfast, instead of asking them these questions. And I'm worried about the Botman thing as well, because is he even training? We're getting nothing, and when's he coming back? And I'm worried that how. As you said, I think you said the other day that we've got a Rolls Royce in the garage and we can't drive it, and it's like, well, we've got one of the best young centre backs out there, and it's almost like we don't even know what he's doing, because they keep saying he's back for this, back for that, but then he says he's not training. Well, when's he going to be back? Have you rushed him back? It's more questions than answers, unfortunately.
Good question, Mark. What's your take on the Botman situation? Is obviously a big frustration. Chip has made a good point there. Could you see Botman back for Liverpool, Mark? Do you think?
Well, this is the question of just how fit he's going to be, and I think you sort of hit the nail on the head with rushing him back. I think there's the risk to do that, but there was the ridiculous sort of part of last season where he was played when he shouldn't have been playing, and I think that then leads into the problems that you're seeing now, is that he's played too much when he was carrying the injury last year. He shouldn't have been playing. He was playing because of the depleted squad, and you don't want to bring him back too early, and especially against a forward line as good as Liverpool's can be. I mean, they could run him ragged, and you could be just asking for trouble again by bringing him into that scenario. The flip side of that is, he's the best defender on the field by a country mile. He's the most calm. He's the best on the ball. He will lead from that role. Again, Chip, as you mentioned it before, the lack of leadership on that field on Sunday or yesterday was unbelievable. George put it in here. The missing on-field generals, there were none. Where is Bruno's captaincy? Where is his leadership on the field? Because you get those moments where he'll put the ball out for a throw, and he'll tackle somebody, and he'll pump everybody up, and then he reverts back, and it's quiet, and he gives the ball away. He spends far too long on the ball. But by bringing somebody like Botman in, you get that leadership back at the back, and I can see the sense in bringing him in. When you did the preview to come out tomorrow morning, Chris, and not to give away obviously what I'm thinking, but bringing him back in, if he's fit enough to play, you sort of have to, because that was so open. It was so disappointing after the first half that we watched. It's so disappointing to watch a team turn around and throw in that performance. It was just awful. But yeah, Botman for me, if he's not close enough to be fit, you don't risk him. If he's close enough to play, then he has to play.
Yeah, just before we bring Stephen Chip, there's a bit of positivity. How good was Louis Miley for you, mate, in that game?
It makes me wonder why he hasn't played him more. It's the same with the Tonali debate, why he didn't play him more at the time, and you can see the difference. And I felt for him for the second half because that wasn't his sort of game, that second half, because we had under the caution. I think he needed his two next to him to step up and like be a bit more mature about the situation, and they just weren't. That was the problem. And I think if we missed Joe Litton that second half yesterday, because even if he was on the bench, you could have just brought him on within 5 or 10 minutes of the second half, and then you could have maybe shut up shop better with him in the squad. But yeah, Miley was. I've been saying Miley should have been in weeks ago, but for some reason he just hasn't bothered him, and he's kept playing Willock, who had a very good first half yesterday, but before yesterday was being very ineffective. And sometimes Eddie Howe baffles me. As much as you want to do well, there's a lot of questions that I want answered off him as well. I'm not going to get them, unfortunately, because again, the press don't ask them these things, so
it's very difficult. Yeah, and then press comes in. Would you start Miley on Wednesday, though, mate? Would you throw Miley in?
Yeah, I'd start him as long as he's okay, because it's a short turnaround for somebody who hasn't played many games. I obviously don't know the crack with Joe Litton if he's going to be in the squad. Hopefully Tonali's possibly train Monday, Tuesday. But again, do you take Willock out? I would possibly take Willock out because again, his injury issues is 2 games in 72 hours, a bit much for him. So again, it just depends on who's available. But we won't know, because again, like I said, they'll say, Eddie, did you have cornflakes this morning for your breakfast? And we won't know this, so
absolutely. But Chibbers, it's been class talking to you, mate. Go get some Barocas down you, mate. And
I'm off to bed. I'm on release tomorrow, so I'm off to bed.
Top man. Listen, we'll get Stephen in a second. Thank you very much, Chibbers. Have a pal.
Cheers, man.
Speak to you soon, buddy. Cheers, mate. We'll bring Stephen in, I think, Mark, in a second there.
I will.
Stephen's been waiting patiently in the background here. He's got plenty to say. Stephen, how you
doing,
mate?
Well, absolutely. How you doing, lads?
Yes, good, mate. How are you, pal?
I'm struggling with a cold at the minute, and I'm sort of balancing.
It's doing the rounds.
Sort of balancing this precariously. But there you go. Yeah, you can see my sort of Rudolph like red nose kind of hovering there. But so I do apologise. It's not based anyone wants to see in sort of HD at the minute. But yeah, I tell you what, that's the other one that all the journalists sort of think. Why do all the local journalists think this is the greatest question ever asked as well? They always ask, Eddie, is it difficult to pick the lads up after a game like that? Why do they all think that's such a great question to ask? Is it easy to pick the lads up? Is it easy to get them to settle after a good result? If it's a good result, it's that one. If it's a bad result, it's the other. It's like that's a piss question. It's such an underarm ball, isn't it? It's like soft soap questions. It's all he ever gets. But anyway, yeah. I mean, in terms of like the game at the weekend, I thought the first 10 minutes, up till and including when they scored, it was pretty shambolic. And then the comeback from us was just extraordinary. And it was down. It's funny, isn't it, with a player like Miley? As soon as he got that chance in the box, I knew he was going to score it.
You just fancied him, didn't you? He just looked so composed, didn't he? For 18 years old as well.
Yeah.
Man. Just so impressive.
Incredible. Yeah, the swivel, the turn. I mean, basically the individual brilliance of him, Hall, and Isak probably just turned it around in those early stages. That little, I mean, I know that Murphy put it over the line. I tend not to be very complimentary about Jacob Murphy, but there you go. I know he got it in the back of the net, but that little the way that Isak killed that ball dead and then just gave it a little smidge of a back heel to put it into the path was just, it's just beautiful. That little setup, and then in the second half, I just would, we need the Amazon cameras, people. We need to know what Eddie is telling the players at halftime. Is he feeding aha through through the speakers to Mazepan? We need to know, because first 10 minutes they looked all right. And in fairness, like my mate who is way less pessimistic than I am, doesn't take very much, sort of made a good point and said, yeah, if Scher's header goes in, the one that comes off the post, as that goes in, that's 5-1. And we could be winning that game 6 or 7, because I think Forest's heads probably go down at that point, but it doesn't. But there's no excuse for just how open we were after that. I mean, just incredible. I didn't know what the heck. I mean, there were so many warning signs where Byrne was just getting done for pace, suicidal passes, just losing his concentration. And I kept thinking, make some changes, Eddie. Make some changes. You can see
why doesn't he do that? Do you
here.
think, Steve? Why does he wait till like Eddie o'clock, as the guys at Toon Reviewers call it? Why is he so stubborn to
Passivity.
wait for a set
He's a
time?
very, very passive manager. I think he's an excellent coach.
Yeah.
But I killed for saying it. But sometimes I think the jury is still out as a manager. You know, I mean, if you talk about the management of that game in the second half, you know, the clue is in the name, manager. You know, do you think if, say, Jose was manager, we would have been, you know, pissing our pants at panic stations at 4-1? You know, I'm not saying that, you know, we should, you know, that you know, how his job should be under threat. You know, he's done great things this year as well. But yeah, as you say, this whole idea of, like, you know, Eddie o'clock, it has to be the 67th minute. Why not bring Tonali on at half time to shore up that midfield? You 4-1 up, you know, right? Okay, you know, like, you know, I mean, Willock did well in the first half, you know, but possibly he's not the guy that you want on the pitch if, you know, you just want to sort of see the game out.
Yeah,
you shouldn't really be having much problem seeing the game out when you're 3 goals to the good at home. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? What do you think?
Just to bring Mark in there, just before you answer that, Mark, I was going to say the changes he did make. How disappointing was the likes of Callum Wilson not squaring that ball?
Oh, Christ. He's finished. He's finished.
Just dreadful.
He's finished.
There's the selfish nature of a striker in that point, but he's got to look up and see Gordon screaming free, and he's got to tap into an empty net. I mean, it's just, that's ridiculous. But the frustrating, I think, from the outside looking in at that point, when you get the goal that's conceded in the 63rd minute when Forest got their second goal, and you go, that's the time to change. That's the time to reinvigorate the side, to bring on 1 or 2 to go, right, okay, it's been shit. Let's change things. Let's get back on plan. Let's, you know, bring in, if there's a couple of tired legs, bring, you know, Willock off. It's clearly not his game at that point.
Yeah.
It was the first half. Even to look to bring in Sean at that point, he's a little bit more steady. But in that phrase, he doesn't necessarily play those killer balls. He doesn't play those key passes, but he doesn't really give the ball away. And that's what was going wrong an awful lot on Sunday, is the fact that the ball was just being given straight back to Forest. And the other change at that point, and you touched on this, I think in the aftermath this morning, Chris, was Asula. Is that that change to bring him on, to run at them, to give them give you another outlet to hold on to the ball in that attacking area, and with his pace and his power on the ball as well that we've seen is really get him at the Forest defence and just give you the defence in the midfield an outlet for them to be able to push up the field, because it was one-way traffic for an awful long time, and there was no outlet in that second half, because the ball was just bouncing and coming straight back.
Who was the best player for you, Steve? Who was the one who really stood out for you, mate? That impressed you the most in that game?
I think Miley was great first half. Maybe faded a little bit in the second half. Just every time I see Lewis Hall, I can't help but be he's got the haircut that everyone under 20 should have. You know, it should be statutory, really. You know what I mean? It's a kind of, it's almost got a kind of like national service 1961 kind of look to it. But what a player! I mean, it's funny what you were saying, and I agree in your roundup that I watched this morning. I thought at one time him and Livermendo were of a piece quality wise. But I mean, having wanting one of maybe a sniper rifle to take him out when he was trying to dribble his way out of defence at 4-2. I mean, Livramento tried to do that a few times when a simple ball out of the defence would have done. Instead, he's trying to weave his way around 2 or 3 players. It's like, what the fuck are you trying to do? We're under the cosh. There's 15 minutes to go. Stick it into row Z. Just get rid of it. And there was too much of that. Whereas Hall, I tell you what, was he 18 or 19? Is he
20. I think he's just turned 20.
Oh, he's just turned 20, right?
Just turned 20, yeah.
I mean, for his age, his maturity, his instincts of what to do with the ball, what not to do, fantastic. I think again, man of the match, and then just the casual ability of Isak. Probably had a shit game by his standards, but when you're one of the most sought after strikers in the world, you can stink up the place, and still be better than 99.9% of centre forwards on the world stage, can't you? Really?
Absolutely, Mark. Just on Isak, you were talking about stats before. I mean, some of these things are scary. He's got 50 goals quicker than, is it Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Michael Owen. As much as he was a prick when he was here, he was a good player. But some of the stats you were talking about before we come on there, Mark, about Isak's goal return in the games he's played it's like world class, isn't it? Really, I know Daniel Sturridge said he's not quite world class yet. From the world class striker, it was Daniel Sturridge at the weekend, mind you. But just tell us some of them stats you were talking about there, Mark. They're unbelievable, man.
So those 50 goals came in 76 games, which is just behind Fernando Torres and Mo Salah, which is good timing for this week, isn't it? But if you take that down into the number of minutes that he's played, it's 56 goals and 77.7 90 minutes played. So that's the total number of minutes is 6,990 minutes. But he also has 65 goal contributions, so it's 56 goals and 9 assists in those 77.7 games effectively. That's across his whole Newcastle career. Those 50 goals, came in 63.9 Premier League.
It's unbelievable strike rate.
It's ridiculous. His strike rate, I think what is it? 19 goals this season in 24 games. It's actually 21.9, I think, if you just take the number of minutes that he's played. His goal to minutes ratio, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I'm just frantically.
But Mark, remember, mate, we're flogging him to Arsenal for 80 million.
They're going to have a hell of a striker, Steve.
Well, 70 million, or we're doing a straight swap with Liverpool for Darwin Núñez. Because we're feeling very, very, we're nothing if not generous, us Geordies, you see. We want to spread the largesse, and I love it. Paid 63 million because they were too chicken shit to spend 50 million on him the season before. But, according to, the rank likes of Troy Deeney, and what other sniveling Arsenal idiots might be out there. We're happy to make about 13 million profit and a pickled egg on them. It's brilliant, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, to tell you what, those Saudis, they got no business sense. They became the richest. They became the richest people on the planet just by accident, apparently.
By the sounds of it. Just quickly, Steve, what's your take on Wednesday, mate? How are you feeling about Wednesday? Are you confident? Are you worried? Do you think we'll try something different? Maybe a bit of a dress rehearsal for the final? Try and do something tactically, or just try and contain
tactically? Them? Eddie, how are you kidding? How ball is 4-3-3. It is it is so it is written. It was sent down from the stone tablets. No. It shall be 4-3-3. I think it'll be. I think unfortunately it will be Pope in goal again. I mean, I think you said, something of the soccer aid keeper about him, Jamie Theakston in the house. I'm telling you, it was bad for that opening goal. So no, I think it'll be this. Hopefully, I mean, Botman might be fit again. You never know, but I fancy a Pearson. I mean, I know that Man City have not had the greatest season, but Liverpool have just made short shrift out of them lot at the weekend, and I have a feeling that that back four, particularly our centre halves. I said in one of the comments thing. They creak like Castle Dracula in an old Hammer horror film. Like Byrne and Shear's creaking legs. If Botman's not playing. So no, I fancy a 3-0. A 3-0 win to Liverpool, though the Newcastle gods strike me down. I just hope that when it comes to, is it March the 14th with the cup final?
16th, I think is it Sunday, isn't it? I think it's a Sunday.
16th. I hope we're, I don't know, we're sort of, the ghosts of the past, the ghost of Jackie Milburn and all the rest of them are smiling down on us. Either that or the entire Liverpool squad are down with, I don't know, some sort of COVID mixed with food poisoning, that kind of thing. It's got to be something or other. But I don't fancy our chances on Wednesday. But here's hoping that the cup final will finally break the jinx.
Absolutely. Well, we've waited long enough, Steve. But listen, mate, it's been class having you on the night. Thank you so much, mate. We'll move on a little bit. We'll get somebody else.
Thank you very much, lads.
Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Cheers,
come
man.
join us on Wednesday for the live post match. Top man. Cheers, mate. Top man, Steve. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with these tactics, Mark. I think Chris had said in the comments there before, same tactics as Arsenal away, and that's kind of the vibe we were going with the preview. I mean, there's a real good chance here, I think, isn't there, that if we go for those kind of tactics, this is a good way to try and see if we can nullify Liverpool and get something out of this game. I mean, Liverpool are unbelievable. Lost one game all season. The slapped Manchester City side with relative ease at the weekend, with Mo Salah obviously stealing the show again. City weren't great, looked toothless without Haaland as well. But, do you think that Eddie will try a bit of a tactical masterclass here, or do you think he's just going to go standard 4-3-3, as Steve says there before, and just try and go for it?
There's part of us would go, yes, I think that probably suits but does it suit the matchup? Does Mo Salah in behind a wing back hurt you more than it helps? There's also the thought of, do you want to give the house away 3 weeks before the cup final as well and go with?
But or you could have change of tactics though, because if it works on Wednesday and then they think, they're going to do that in the cup final, you could flip it and go 4-3-3 in the final.
There absolutely is. You look at that both ways. It's funny. I think there was a comment in the chat before. So I think about it was Agent Tech Streams has put in there 113 in 16, and that's the form sort of Newcastle are in. If you go back to, and that's all competitions going back to mid-December, those losses being Bournemouth, Fulham, and Man City. So that's been a really good run of form as such. Liverpool in that same period back to their last 16 games in all competitions have only won 9 of those. They've creaked in recent weeks, and that could play into Eddie Howe's thinking in terms of the tactical approach, because if you change everything and the Arsenal one, I think, suited who they were playing against, in that they made it really difficult to break down. Arsenal didn't have the width of Saka or Ranieri, or they were limited in terms of striking options because Kai Havertz is shit. And their midfield is nothing to write home about at the moment. Odegaard's nowhere near the level he is at.
Rice is getting a bit of shit, isn't he, by all accounts, off a few people, which is
getting shit off his fans. I saw one of the Arsenal TV lads having a bit of a rant about him today, and
how quickly that can change. He was the best thing since fucking sliced bread a few months ago, wasn't he? So
yeah, that 120 million pound bargain that they got in signing Declan Rice ain't looking so rosy. But for Liverpool, like I say, that they've creaked in recent weeks. They've started to concede a couple of goals. They were exceptional yesterday. Don't get us wrong, but in midweek, the 2-2 draw against Villa, the 2-2 draw against Everton, which they conceded in the last second. It was 2-1 against Wolves. They've shown vulnerabilities.
Can't be got at.
Yeah, PSV beat them in Europe. Forest drew with them. Spurs beat them on their own patch at Spurs in that cup first leg. And there are there are little creaks, like I said, and I've used that word 3 times, so apologies for that. But there are those little ways in, and I think a full change might not suit the game. I think that the way that they're set up as well, I'm not so sure. If they go with the City setup with that, they've almost gone a 4-2-2-2 with no sort of striker, but they ended up playing sort of Soboslai and Curtis as the Curtis Jones as the furthest players forward.
I don't rate him, you know. I honestly don't rate him at all. I think he's very much lucky. He's a bit like fucking or is it Victoria Adams and the Spice Girls? Can't fucking sing or dance or nothing like that, but it ends up being in there just by default, really. You know, I don't see what the kid brings. Watch him score a fucking goal now. When's it just
football gods, Chris? You want to say that?
But let me tell you what's going to happen on Wednesday, right? I'm going to tell you this, and anyone in the chat, listen to this. Louis Miley's goal at the weekend was very reminiscent of a certain Gerrard type swivel and strike, and I'd love the young lad to fucking put a Gerrard raker in the top corner against them lot at Anfield, because you can imagine them all kicking off looking at the similarities of it. They probably want to sign him for 200 million in the summer, probably.
So a nice 30-yarder into the corner. Yeah, that would
nice.
Just
Nice.
Yeah.
But I think Miley's capable of that, though. I said this before. You know, when you look at the kid's attributes and how he's grown and developed as a player, none of our midfielders get goals. They don't get goals. You know, Tonali's capable of it, and he's got a couple this season, but invariably our midfield does not score goals. But Miley's got the goals in him. You can see the way he took the Bromley goal. You can see the way he took the goal against Forest. He got into the boxes before that as well, before he got the goal. You know, he took a shot against City as well. He's capable of getting goals, and I think if we train this lad on in the right way, I think he could be a 10-plus goal a season midfielder, and fucking hell, that's invaluable to have in your squad.
Yeah, and for him as well, it's that calm nature in front of goal. He never seems
doesn't get shaken, does he?
I wish he'd shoot
more.
Celebrate.
Even when he celebrated, I'd have lost my mind. I'd have been in the Gallagher end, like licking somebody's face, going, 18 years old, and I lost my shit.
Anyway.
Well, 43, I'd still be doing that, but 18 years old, I lost my shit. Scoring a goal like that in the Gallagher. He's so calm. Honestly.
But
I blame VAR for that, though. I do blame VAR for that.
Well, there is that. Yeah, go back to his goal against Fulham, his first ever goal. Is
brilliant goal.
Just calmness, his great finish. Even when everybody was losing their heads on at the end of the game yesterday, there was still that element where
he wanted the ball, didn't he? He wanted it.
And no match of the day touch on this, but he was just give me the ball. I'll be fine. I can hold on to it, and he's got that good touch. He gets him out of trouble, and he's got such a calm, mature head on his shoulders. And you're right. I think with a little bit more time, a little bit more confidence in front of goal, and I think the 2 goals this season will give him a little bit more. There was a moment later on in the game where I just thought, I should pull the trigger as he's running across the box. I really wanted to ping one in the corner.
Bruno played it, didn't he, on the edge of the box. Now the whole crowd went shoot like that, and he didn't do it. He put it out wide. I was hoping he was going to shoot as well, to be fair. But Tyson, every week the Gallagher would be praying Chris doesn't score. Come on, Ty, you'd love it, mate. You'd love it, mate. I'd be celebrating with you, pal. But yeah, it's an interesting one, I think, because that Liverpool midfield, again, without stepping on the previews coming up tomorrow, I think they can be got at, you know. And if you look at the midfield that we could potentially be playing, you know, with the likes of Bruno, Tonali, and Miley. Miley's not scared of a tackle either. He showed that. He's getting a bit more aggressive, but they use the ball very well. And you know, McAllister and Gravenberch are both very good players, but the way they played against City with them 2 sitting with their 3 in front of them, you know, a lot of emphasis would be on those 2 sitting. You know what I mean? So I think it'd be interesting to see just how we do match up against them on Wednesday, you know. And it's we are missing some big players, there's no doubt about it. I'd love to go into this game with Joe Litton and Botman there, because I just think you would feel a lot more, I suppose, more positive about things. But you know, absences give people opportunities like Louis Miley, you know, and he's doing really well. But the big concern for me, Mark, again at the weekend, going back to the Forest game, was the defence again. You know, Fabian Scare, as I've now got to calling him, just it always does something in a game now that frightens me. You know, whether it's just a lack of positional sense, a lackadaisical pass. You know, he didn't look great. I know he hits the post with a header, but you know, he didn't look great. And Byrne again was overplaying and maybe taking too many touches. And to be honest with you, Lewis Hall got burnt out of loads of shit at the weekend. I hope Dan Burn bought Lewis Hall a Ribena because he probably doesn't drink pints. But I hope he bought him a carton of Ribena or something after the game because Lewis Hall was outstanding. But what concerns me is Liverpool are a much better side than Nottingham Forest. And if we give chances like that away to them, we could be 2-3-0 down, mate, in 20 minutes on Wednesday if we do that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for the defenders, and I think, and it's been touched on in some of the comments, is that there's an awful lot of confidence for that defence that comes from behind them, and Nick Pope's lack of ability in that regard is telling, and it started off dreadfully, didn't it, for him, and that just sets him up. And look, I'll give Nick Pope an awful lot of credit because there were a couple of moments. I mean, he sets up the goal, doesn't he, with his initial throw out to
quick throw. Yeah, he does. You got to give him that. Yeah.
So he was lively in that regard, but just to drop into that first one, and this is what I'm talking in terms of defensive sort of, and it set the stage. I'll just quickly bring this up. This was the goal, and I just think, Nick,
where is he going?
Go and watch. Painful to kind of watch him do it, but go back and watch that goal again. And as Elanga's as Hudson-Odoi is running across the field, I'm looking at the completely wrong player. As he's running across the field with the ball after Murphy's given it away, you see Nick Pope drop back, and he's pretty much dropping back on that white line that I put. That's his view of where the ball is. But he's dropping back, and I'm looking at it going, surely you can see where the penalty spot is. You know that he's heading to the post, and you're like, what on earth are you doing at this point? And then it gets to 25 yards out, and this is where Hudson-Odoi hits it, and in the only place that he can really hit it at that point to find that corner, and it's straight past Dan Burn. And I thought initially when I saw it, I thought people were being a bit harsh on Pope because
do you think Pope thought he was shaping the curl in the far corner, Hudson-Odoi, and that's why he's going to the other side?
Possibly, but my initial thought was he's trying to look around Dan Burn, and I mean Burn's not exactly a small figure, is he? But when you look at it, you can easily have taken 2 steps to your right and still seen where the ball is, and if you do that, you probably save it. He just got it horribly, horribly wrong. And I talked about goalkeeping basics with the other day about Onana at Man United, where he just can't get the basics right. And Nick Pope did exactly that. You come into the game, however many minutes you've played or not played, you know where the white thing is behind you. You know where your posts are. You've got to know where they are. And if you're looking at it, it's not like a Sunday League pitch where the goal mouth's all muddy, the penalty spot's not showing up. It's a pristine carpet in front of him with a penalty spot. You know exactly where you should know exactly where you are. And he lost his bearings completely and never recovered from that. But it's just those shaky moments. And then you go back, the ball going back to his feet. And that is where the defence start to question him, because they're not happy to using him as an outlet with the ball, whereas they're much happier to have used Martin Dubravka. And do
you think Dubs will come back in? Sorry, Kosh, do you think Dubs will come back in? A lot of people are saying it in the chat.
I would. It might be harsh on Nick Pope, but I just think he's the better all-round player. Yeah. Maybe he's not a better pure goalkeeper, but I think Dubravka gives you more. I don't know if Vlachodimos gives you more in that regard, because he can be comfortable with the ball at his feet.
He's not playing him.
He's not going to play. No
chance from playing fucking John Burridge and Vlachodimos, mate, on Wednesday. To be honest with you,
definitely bloody ruddy. But yeah, if it's me, I'm putting Dubravka back in goal, because I just think he might not be the best goalkeeper as such, but I think as an overall package, I think you take what you've got with him.
I just don't think you will, because Howe's stubborn like that. I think Pope's is number one, and he was waiting for the opportunity to get Pope back in, and a 4-0 pacing by City, even though it wasn't Dubravka's fault. is exactly why he's brought Pope back in. And I think he'll just stick with him. Graham saying Stevie Wonder's a better kicker than Pope, but I disagree with that. So I think Stevie Wonder would have got close to that shot, Graham, as well, to be honest with you. But I just don't think Howe will take Pope out. I think he'll keep him in. I mean, we have to hope that it's rustiness for Pope, but all this talk about Trafford, we were at the True Faith talking on Friday. Big shout out to the True Faith guys. That was an awesome show. And we had a good chat with Craig Holton as well, who's a really nice guy as well. I keep saying that over and over again. He is a really nice fella. He come and chat with us at the table and stuff. And he was talking about James Trafford, and you were very complimentary about Trafford as you always are, Mark. And I think this necessity to bring in a keeper and Trafford being the one identified. I mean, there was talk last summer. We agreed that the terms with him. I think that Howe knows that something has to change in that goalkeeping department, and that's why he's wanting to bring in the next number one, probably for the next 5-10 years. You look at what we've done with Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento, in terms of the full-back positions. Trafford obviously is a young keeper, is a risk, but he's got a lot more to his game, especially with his feet, than Nick Pope has. He's the same size as Pope. I think the season of the Championship's probably done him better, after that rough season in the Premier League. But Nick Pope's injuries for me, Mark, have been a huge concern. And do you think that's something that maybe is going to, shorten his time at the club, potentially?
Yeah. I mean, you could I'd suggested, and I think it's been suggested elsewhere.
I would as well, consistent.
I'd love to, mate. I'd love to. Unfortunately, my knee couldn't take it. I can't.
Your knee couldn't take it. I have
trouble. Funnily enough, I have trouble diving to my left as well because my knee doesn't twist.
Mark's knee's got more pieces than a fucking chessboard. To be honest with you, it's shattered inside that many times.
It's dreadful. But yeah, I mean, Pope. I mean, like I say, I sort of suggested, and I've seen others sort of say the same thing. Could you see a point in which Pope goes the other way to make way for Trafford coming in? And I think Trafford's got an awful lot of experience now from his time in the Premier League, and he'll have learned a lot from that experience. And he's played really well, really well, not really well.
Where's he really been
in the Championship? I mean, he's conceded 9 goals in 33 games this season. I mean, it's telling us as to sort of the quality that they've played with, but they're ridiculous at the back. But he was thrown in on the back of very few appearances beforehand. He played League One. He played in the City sort of under 21s or 23, whatever they were at that point a few years ago, and he's thrown into the Premier League behind a shambolic defence and trying to play a way that would eventually suit them, I think, but not when you first promoted. And as we've seen with Southampton this year, that just doesn't work if you don't have the quality of players. And it was a real baptism of fire for him. But I really like him. I think he's a cracking goalkeeper, and I think he's definitely the long-term answer.
Could be England's number one. We could end up with England's left back and England's right back and England's goalkeeper. Liam saying Pope never recovered properly. I totally agree with that. By all accounts, deal was set last summer, but Pope injury meant no PSR swap. I can believe that, Liam, absolutely, because I think, Mark, you're right as well. The potential was there to do that swap deal. Stephen saying you think Dubravka in Wednesday after Pope's, Jamie Theakston, like sure. I must say that was Adam Cleary's line about the soccer rate. I ain't stealing that line because that was an absolute belter, to be fair, from Adam Cleary. 4-4-2 and True Faith as well. But you never know with how George is saying, like a submarine with a buggered Pope plane. Pope has trouble diving to his left. Super. Those rely on George for a cracker. Absolutely. Mate.
There was something that suggested as well was it the third goal when he did dive to his left. It was a weird dive as well. To be fair,
it was me, and it was me when I did the aftermath. I think he said he almost dived after the fact.
Yeah,
it was like a delayed dive.
But I'd seen somebody else say that he grimaced as he got up. Whether that was just the fact that they conceded the third goal, or whether it was an actual pain from his shoulder. I just thought, if that's the case, I'm just not. If I'm a Newcastle defender now, I'm looking at that going, if he plays, I'm not confident. Mm. I'm far more confident with Dubravka behind me because I don't, as good as he's been, and he was excellent for a large chunk of time, Nick Pope, I'm just not confident. I don't have the trust in him to perform at that level anymore.
True. Well, our defence is getting that old, mate. I think they're more interested in what's for the tea, I think, mate, than they are actually who's behind them in goal these days. El Capo was saying he saved 2 penalties against Assad, Mac and Bassers too. Of course, we can't forget that. And he did the Isak gun finger celebration as well, which was just absolute grade A shit house, really, to be fair. I do like a shit house goalkeeper, so we'll see what happens if Trafford comes in the summer. But I think, yeah, I mean, I suppose just closing off on the game, Mark, in terms of the two sides of it. Newcastle have got to use this game on Wednesday. It's not a free hit. I hate the words free hit, but if you look at the fixtures coming up, just kind of running through them, you've got obviously Liverpool on Wednesday. We'll forget the FA Cup for a minute. We've got West Ham away and the lead up to the Carabao Cup final. Just pause there for a second, because if we can get a good result against Liverpool, if we can get a draw, or even a win, which is a big ask, that takes us into the West Ham game with loads of confidence. If we then get a good result against West Ham, we go to the cup final with confidence, and we need that, because last time we went to the cup final, we were on a shit run of form. Man, you were crap, but they had experience in that team that was able to get them over the line. But I don't want Newcastle United going in to a Carabao Cup final, potentially getting pasted from Liverpool, beaten from West Ham, and maybe knocked out the cup from Brighton. I just don't think that's a really good place, to go into the final, mate. But we need a bit more positivity in the performances, I think, before we go in that final.
It's weird the symmetry as well, having Liverpool sort of in that run before the final as well. I know obviously Liverpool being in the final, but it was the Liverpool game prior to the final that cost the side having Nick Pope in goal, ironically enough, given that we've just been talking about him. But when you with that one league game now between the two Liverpool games, I think that's key. And West Ham just kicked a little bit more into their normal gear at the weekend as well. And that you don't want to go in on the back of 3 poor results, because although that we touched on that 13 wins in 16, it's those 3 defeats in the last sort of 7 games, and you don't want that to start becoming a thing, especially with the way that the City game went and the way with the second half of the Forest game went. If that rolls over into Wednesday and then into the Brighton Cup match and then into West Ham, then it becomes difficult to reverse that. A good battle and draw on Wednesday, and then you get a changed game, a changed team. I think was it 2 games from Wembley as well for the FA Cup. So I think neither side are going to make wholesale changes for the cup game, and then away to West Ham. The 8 days later, because it's the Monday, isn't it? Of that week.
It's the Monday of the cup final week, effectively.
Plus the way to look at it as well, there's probably 1 or 2 due back. I think Joe Linton. I think some of the reports had Joe Linton back in the squad next week. So he'd miss this week and miss the weekend, but would be back in for it next week. So
for the West Ham game,
you could see minutes in him in West Ham, and then available even off the bench for the. So there's positives there to come, and if you can add a couple of good results in that in that next 3 games as well, and like you say, just take some positivity into the finals time. Was it 2 draws and a defeat running into the game last time?
I think it was, yeah, but it was the performances was the worry, I think.
Yeah, they were well off.
Chris is saying, do we play Liverpool in the final between the 2 games against PSG? I think they are close to the final.
It's 1 next week and then 1 the week after, and then it's the final. So they play PSG midweek, the week of the final.
So potentially, there could be a bit of fatigue, I suppose, if you're looking for a positive, is maybe Chris has referred to there. Don't forget, guys, there is the link for the members if anyone wants to jump on and let us know your opinions before obviously we sign off for tonight. We've got a couple of you on already, which has been brilliant. First time we've done this has been excellent, but there's room for more if you guys want to jump on quickly and let us know what you think about what's going on with Newcastle and any points you want to make. But, I think, I'm just laughing at Stephen's comment there. What would we do without John Ruddy? Sell no dressing gowns, Stephen. No dressing gowns at all. That'll plummet. The PSR will be taking a massive hit, I think, if we don't sell any dressing gowns. But I suppose, Mark, just while we're talking out loud, before we wait to see if anyone wants to jump on, new stadium. So, big, what was his name? Big Yass is Rob Rubenstein again, who we had a pint with at the True Faith thing again. Great lad as Rob. Big Yass. I'm going to use that from now on, Rob, because I always get his name wrong. Mark's much better at pronouncing it than me, so I'm going to call him Big Yass from now on as well. But they're obviously in town. They were on the pitch kicking the ball. And apparently, I think it's Matt Van Hall are having a meeting in apparently as well, so to discuss what we're going to do with the stadium. What is your thinking on the stadium? Obviously, it was raised at the True Faith talking. Some very passionate views about it, against it, some passionate views for it as well. But what is your thinking about it? I think we kind of covered this before, Mark, but just as a refresher, where do you stand on the new stadium? A, are you for it? And B, do you think it is going to happen?
Yes, I think it's going to happen. I think generally it probably has to happen, and I'm not as against it as others. I think I've said this before, but I get the heritage. I get the plot of land that it's on, and the fact that it sits where it is. And if it's going to move into Leazes Park, just a couple of meters away, you're not really changing the location of where it is. But you don't have to go back that. And one of the things that was pointed out is it's that stadium, it's that iconic sort of look and things. It's not that long since it didn't look like that at all. You only have to go back to the late 80s, and it looked nothing like it does now. It wasn't the cathedral that it was. I get where it sits. And that
you're just trying to kid yourself, aren't you? You're not old there, aren't you? By saying not that long ago in the late 80s, mate. That was quite a while ago, actually.
So thanks, man. but no, look, we're going back 30 odd years, aren't we? So, but the evolution of the club probably needs it. And if you're going to move on to the ground behind and put it into Leazes Park and repurpose the St James's Park land, I think is the best way. I'm not against it. I am a traditionalist with football. I think there are some things that probably need to be left alone and done. But I think in that regard, where there are issues in terms of where you can't expand certain parts of the ground because of where it sits, then that kind of answers the question an awful lot. And you want to, but it has to be done right. And I know some of the comments on Friday at the talk were about making it so that there's this cauldron of noise and having a yellow wall style sort of stand that where everybody that wants to make noise can make noise. And I think the comment was about Everton have done that with one of their stands, is trying to sort of mimic that creator of an atmosphere. So long as it's done right and it doesn't look fucking awful, because some of the stadiums just look. What you don't want is a soulless bowl, no. A Riverside, an Emirates, an Etihad, that sort of thing. What you want is this, like I say, this cauldron of sound that you can hold an atmosphere, keep it in, keep the noise up, and but yeah, it's. No, like I say, I'm not against it. I like the thought of that new, so long as it's done right.
Yeah, well, Lynn saying no chance of new stadium in or encroaching on Leazes Park, grade 2 listed land. There is that talk about. There was some talk about that at the True Faith talking as well. Marcus is saying definitely the yellow wall type atmosphere. That was an immense experience. I think for me, I've said this right from the jump. I think it's almost inevitable that there'll be a new stadium because of the restrictions, as you've said about St James's, about you can't drop the pitch, you can't spin it, you can't grow up and down with it because of the surrounding land around it. People have always talked about the land down by the arena, but apparently Bellway bought that, so they'd have to buy it off Bellway, which I'm sure Bellway would sell it if the Saudis rocked up with a big dump truck full of money and they'd go build houses somewhere else. But there's a lot of issues with, will the club be able to build the new stadium there? But I just think a new stadium is inevitable because it isn't just football; it's revenue, it's concerts, it's all this other stuff that goes with it. It's modern day football. As much as that, it's not my game, it's NFL games and things like that getting played at the stadium. It's all these things that massively increase revenue. And the guys that we have at the football club right now are all money men. That they're money men first. They're not football people. That's not what they think about. They don't think about nostalgia. They don't think about sitting in an empty St James's Park and hearing Shearer's name when he scored a volley at the Gallagher. They don't think about that. They'll talk about it in front of the cameras to sound good, but all they think about is revenue. They look around, they go, another 20,000 seats there would mean this. More boxes in there would mean this. And that's modern day football. And Newcastle are no different. Sadly, the difference that Newcastle have in the boardroom level is the fan base here, and I know it's easy for me to say because I am one, but the fan base here is unique. It's special. It's very different. You look at the Bundesliga, and those teams are fan-owned, Mark. Newcastle United are almost a little bit like those clubs, in terms of the passion that resides in the city for the football club. It's a one city football club. It's everything to everybody in the stadium, and it's a rite of passage. We were talking to a mate of ours, Nick, at the True Faith Talking, and his lads, that no interest in running off to be Man United, Liverpool fans, because he was dragging them in. He said the minute they injected black and white into the veins, that was it. They were taken. But the issue is as well is that you can't get tickets as a young fan now. You can't get to the games, and I think the stadium capacity is massively being outgrown by the demand for the fan base. And the better this football club does, Mark, the more new generation of fans will want to support us, with players like Isak, Bruno, Tonali, even Miley coming through. They will draw more fans from the area to us rather than driving them to previously the Northwest clubs.
Yeah, one of the comments I think that came from Friday, and I think this was what Craig Hope was talking about, was that the owners will have that number of where they can guarantee it being filled, because what they don't want is going to be empty seats. And the sort of comments were about, well, look at what Liverpool expanded to, what Arsenal expanded to, what City are looking to expand to. And you said that I think you got the wrong way around, but the point is it's a one club city, whereas those aren't. They've got to compete. Where City have got to compete with Man United, Liverpool have got to compete with Everton, Arsenal have to compete with Spurs and all the other sort of northern area clubs or London clubs if you're moving slightly further south. Newcastle is unique in that regard because they don't have the clubs around them to sort of pull fans away. It's a distance because you've got Sunderland, the next one's Borough, the next, you've got the smaller local sides around, but the bigger sides, you go into Birmingham with Villa and Birmingham, West Brom's just round the corner, Wolves is just. There's so many teams in those areas that are packed in, and Newcastle don't really have that. So the ability to then expand to 70 plus, I think they would sell it quite easily. You've only got to look at the number of people that were trying to get Wembley tickets to kind of understand.
Exactly.
But I think if a good product on the pitch and good consistency going with league positions, cup final appearances, those fans will stay. I get there's a fear in terms of, well, if they fall off slightly, will people start to go away? I think those days are gone now. It's not like the days under Ashley where fans did sort of walk away from games because what they were being served up on the pitch was absolute shite. Those days are long gone. I think so long as the team continue to evolve, the manager continues to evolve, and things start to get that level of consistency with that, then I think those fans will stage. Those fans will stay. Marcus, the community page, it's the posts on the channel, the YouTube channel page. If you want to use the link on there, it's just a post for members only on there. So it should be still in there for you. Should be.
We've got super chatting from Graham Ritchie. Thanks for that, Graham.
Thank you.
I was initially against moving from SJP, but now I believe it's the way forward. Great show, lads. Thank you very much, Graham. I think, like I say, it's just inevitable. I think it's the way the football clubs have moved. You look at Spurs, you look at City, you look at Arsenal. They've all moved on to these new stadiums. Obviously Arsenal winning trophies at Highbury. Highbury was, this massively important ground for these fans all throughout the years. All 3 Point Lane was to the Spurs fans as well. But they've moved on. The main road situation as well with the Etihad, and I don't think. And it's easy for me to say, but I just don't think a new Newcastle United stadium will be soulless or empty, because I think that the acoustics, the design of it, everything that they do, I don't think it'll allow it to be. We were watching Munich against Celtic the other day. That stadium's massive. The noise in there, the cauldron of noise in there, the way it fills the stadium because the acoustics and the way it's built. I could just see Newcastle paying for the best people to do it. And I don't think the PIF will do anything other than push the button on a new stadium, because I think this is part of that trajectory that they've laid out, that progress path. Even before we qualified for the Champions League as early as we did, this was on their route for success. The new training ground, the new stadium, obviously the whole PSR situation, all that's probably put a bit of a slowdown on everything. But I think for me, the new stadium is always going to be in the periphery of the PIF to do this, because it's part of what they do, Mark, isn't it? They take businesses and they invest and they develop and they grow, and that's what they do.
Yeah, definitely. And you're talking about Munich and things like that, and it's weird looking at some of the German stadiums, the way that those stadiums are set up. Places like Mönchengladbach and Bayern, the way that they're lit, kind of inspires that kind of drawing of people and noise, and the way that, I mean, Mönchengladbach, you see at some points during it, the roof is lit up green, and it just
that's good. I like
that.
That
almost develops its own little atmosphere in itself, and I think that they've got to be looking at particularly places like Bayern. I think it looks a lovely stadium, and you're right, the sound there was phenomenal, and I think the passion of the fans can lead into that, and I think the comment that was in there before is it's the fans that generate that noise. But there are ways to help it along. It's ways of being able to do it by generating, putting the people that want to make as much noise as possible in one place, so that they're sort of all together, and you haven't got little sporadic spots everywhere like in some stadiums. But I think you're right. PIF will be looking at it, they've obviously getting the best people to come in and do their reviews of what they can do with the land that they're looking at, and how much they're wanting to spend and what they want to eventually achieve with it. But yeah, like I say, for me, that move, I think is got to be a thing. It's got to be a thing to help the progression of the club going forward and keep that level of consistency, keep those fans happy, and keep everybody coming in.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris was saying that he hopes they don't change the name of a new stadium. I don't think they will. I think the lessons we learned from the previous debacle, but whatever it's going to be called, I suppose Leazes Park is perfect, I suppose, isn't it? There probably will be a sponsor under it, so for their commercial, sponsorships and partnerships with the club, that will be there, but they won't call it the Mercedes Stadium at Leazes Park or anything like that. It'll just be underneath, in terms of, for everybody talking about it, the way Sky refer to it, and TNT and Fox Sports and whoever's covering it will be Leazes Park if it is Leazes Park. But I just can't say anything other than that happening. I mean, I think if we get Champions League again this season, which is going to be a push. I mean, I'll get your opinion on that, Mark, before we sign off, if nobody's coming back on with us tonight. If we get Champions League at the end of the season again, I just think it only further accelerates the need to go down that route to become a bigger club, to become a mainstay in the Champions League. You see, like they say, the Munich Stadium, and you see the way those teams are packing them out, and I suppose the spotlight, the global spotlight on those stadiums as well. I think it'll only further push PIF down that route. My concern, I think, just finishing on the stadium, is that more corporate seats. Roy Keane said this many, many years ago about the prawn sandwich brigade, didn't he? In terms of what he was, what he was talking about. The noise levels going down, the passionate fans being replaced by the business people. Do you know what I mean? And is that a concern? Do you think bigger the stadium, the more corporate presence will be at the stadium and less fans?
I think there's always that worry, isn't there, when you go that, and they're going to pull an awful lot of money from corporates. So long as the split is right, and the increase to the number of, I say, genuine fans. That's harsh, because there are some of those corporates that are genuine fans. That it's not the corporate soulless companies that own these boxes and things. But
yeah,
I think so long as the average fan, and again harsh, but you and me, that that wants to be able to try and get to a game and has better chance of being able to get a ticket of a game and not having to go through, or you probably still go through ballots, but there's a much better chance of getting tickets through that. There's an increase in the number of season ticket holders, that sort of thing. So long as that happens, then that's not a bad thing, because what you want is that has to benefit the fans. It has to benefit the club, but at the end of the day, the fans are the club, and it has to benefit the fans. Because without the fans, the club is nothing. You have an empty stadium, and that's not what PIF want. They want that packed, and they're only going to pack it with fans. They're only going to pack it if they do it right, and they make it so that it suits not just the locals, but I think that's always an argument for that. But it's those fans that want to get to games. It's not just the corporate boxes. It's not just the expensive tickets, the package tickets that are put out, the tourist tickets, all of that kind of stuff. For those, wherever you come from, that just like you and me that want to go to a game, there has to be that better opportunity for them.
Yeah, as long as it's fans and not only fans, after that fucking disgraceful article I saw in the Telegraph not too long ago. The only tits I want to see is some big fat bloke with NUFC tattooed on his fucking stomach in the ground. That's all I want to see. That was an absolute joke. It really, really was. Roy's in the chat there just saying we need to build for the future as well. You're right, Roy. I think the thought process of what Madrid have done with that football and City they've got with all the young players playing in there, and City did something similar, didn't the Mark as well? Over here, so something like that is great. Get the best prospects to come in, almost a live-in campus. To have those players coming through the ranks, and then we end up with more young players coming through, good players coming through. We've already got a lot of young England internationals in the youth academies. We've gone out and found those players, despite not doing much in the first team. Brought in some good young players for the future. So the future looks bright, regardless of whatever's happened. But surely the training facilities for the young players will be on the cards too. So just before we sign off tonight, Mark, thought process on the Champions League places. I mean, this is unbelievably tight, this Premier League table right now. Anywhere between chuffing 10th to 3rd, you're talking about 3 or 4 points between clubs there, really. And realistically, Newcastle sitting in 5th right now, which by the looks of it would be a good place to get a Champions League spot. How realistically do you think Newcastle are going to get there? Ty's asking, my missus was asking if Mark has an OnlyFans. Obviously a fan. Mrs. Ty's a fan of you there, mate. She must be a Back to the Future.
I don't know what I say to that. I really don't.
She must be a Back to the Future fan. She must be. Bit of Biff Tannen, mate. Bit of Biff Tannen love there. So gonna get that one in. But,
so what hacked by my missus in that regard? No, she wouldn't want to see that. Christ.
No. Yeah. You're from the wrong place for your missus to be an only fan, mate. But yeah, going back to the Champions League spots. Realistically, there's 12 games to go. I haven't seen everybody else's fixtures. We're looking at Newcastle's. I mean, in amongst that run, we've got some big fucking games in there. Obviously starting Wednesday. We've also got Aston Villa away. We've got Man United at home, who, even though they're shit, have the tendency to turn up and cause you a bother. We've got Chelsea at home. We've got Arsenal away. We've got Everton at home in the last game of the season, who have picked up a game under Moyes. This is not going to be easy, is it? I mean, how realistically do you think Newcastle look and finishing in that 5th spot, mate?
I mean, there's a lot of games that you would go. You can see you can see points, can't you?
I agree with Liam. It is a free for all. It is a free for all because there's loads of teams that play each other. Yeah,
and it's 5 points to Fulham in 10th. Funnily enough, I started to look at the fixtures earlier on today to try and get a gauge of where everybody was at the same time, and it's so strange because you've got. I don't think I've ever seen a season like it where you've got this many teams that are only a couple of points off each other.
It's almost by fluke. I don't think the Premier League have said this is what they wanted to create, and it pisses me off a little bit that it's happened because it sounds like PSR and FFP is working.
Well,
and that's what knocks me a little bit.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to bring in the fixtures for I think for most of them now. It's just struggling to upload it. But there's an awful lot of playing each other. in that regard as well. So there's a good,
there you go. I think
chunk
you're
of
up
that.
there. Here's
a work
something
in
you made
progress.
earlier. There you go, Mark. You're always prepared.
It is a bit of a work in progress, but I mean, when you go down the list, I mean, Forest have dropped off a little bit. Their next two games are Arsenal and City, so they could drop 6 points in that regard, and Newcastle have pick up games again. Is that Brentford game been moved? It has, hasn't it? So because I don't think they're playing both yourselves and Bournemouth on the same weekend. So yeah, bear with me because this isn't a finished article, but you can kind of see the teams that each one's got to play, and there are definitely winnable games in that run for Newcastle, and to be able to stay in and around that fifth place. I mean, none of them are going to be particularly easy, but everybody else has got to play all of those sides too. So and the way things are going, that teams are dropping points left, right, and centre. Chelsea again hadn't lost. I don't think they've won in 5 on the road or 6 on the road now. That was Villa's first win in 5, I think, in the league too. Forest form seems to have dropped off slightly. City is still hit and miss. You've got Brighton, who, I mean, the epitome of up and down at times. Fulham seems to have dropped away a little bit. So there's lots in that. And Bournemouth, I mean, can they keep that run going? They're starting to get a couple of players back. They're obviously going to be missing. Is it Zabani for a couple of games now with his red card at the weekend? Can they avoid suspensions and injuries for the rest of the season to maintain the form that they've had as well? The thinking would be that it's sooner or later, with the small squad that they have and the way that Forest really overperformed and teams have maybe found them out a little bit to a point, is they start to drop off, which opens the door more for Newcastle to even jump into that top 4, because that's not beyond the realms of possibility. Because what's the gap now? It's only a couple of points, isn't it?
It is literally a couple of points. I mean, Chris was making a good point there. Fancies us for 5th, but we need Big Joe and Sven back as soon as possible. Any more injuries, we could be 4 or 5 places lower. This is the gamble, isn't it? Chris was bang on. The gamble of not adding to that squad. I mean, I said this about Villa. Villa added Rashford and Asensio, and people go, what the fuck have they done that for? The wage bill, da, 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 da. But you look how sharp they're looking, just getting back to the fitness levels that they need to get back to. Asensio looks fucking outstanding. Rashford, that big gamble, was he going to be wanting to do it? Was the mentality there? It looks like it is. And Villa have rolled the dice here. If it doesn't work for Villa, that's a lot of money outlaid on wages. Yes, man, you were chipping in a bit for Rashford's wages, but if that pays off for Villa, they've already got through the next rounds of the Champions League, so there's money there that's going to roll into the 3 years worth of PSR. But if Asensio and Rashford get them into the Champions League, that is a risk worth taking. Newcastle haven't taken a risk. We've rolled the dice on fitness of the current squad, given the injury problems that we've had, which is probably an even bigger gamble than Villa gambling on Rashford and Asensio, to be honest with you. But the freshness that they've gave that Villa squad, same as the likes of City signings. Yes, I know we couldn't do it, but Villa showed how you can do it without spending the money. Yes, they sold John Duran, who was a good sale because he was a bad egg, I think, really, in many ways. But, the fact they brought those 2 players in on loan, and the boy from Dortmund as well, they've had a great window, and that extra freshness to their squad might just carry them over the line. I mean, I kind of agree with Ty. I think Forest might drop away, and Bournemouth too. I think because of the inexperience of being there, I think that might just catch up on them. When you get to the business end of the season, a lot of the teams who have been there before just find their stride, and then they soldier through. And even Newcastle have done this before, and they might just find their stride, that was the lad there. Thank you, consistent Mal. I always get the name wrong there. Yeah, I always get the name wrong there. So that's what worries me for Forest and Bournemouth. I want to say Newcastle can finish 5th, but Villa creeping up just really worries me because they're doing so well with those players that they brought in. Almost if or when they go out of the Champions League, I think they'll throw all their chips into the league and they'll become even stronger. That worries me a little bit.
Yeah, but don't forget they're also in the 5th round of the Cup too, so they've got an eye on some of that too. So they've got games to come up, and they have a game less to play, as Liam's just put in there. They've played 27 because their Liverpool fixture last week was one from game week 30, maybe, I can't remember. But they've obviously played a game more than everybody else in that. Look, I think you're right. I think, and I said before, I think Forest will drop slightly. I don't think they'll maintain the form that they've had. They've started to ship goals, which is something they hadn't really done this season. Bournemouth have been epic at times this season, and they've been really, really good. But I don't think that they can maintain that charge.
The staying power, isn't it? Yeah, I think they'll just drop away.
And they have even smaller squad, I think, in that regard than Newcastle did when you go back to last season and the way that panned out. So they could really struggle going in. Like I say, Brighton hit and miss. Fulham, I think, will drop away. I think it opens the door. I genuinely think that, you know, if Newcastle can get Joe Linton back and keep Botman fit and not lose anybody through injury, then fifth is a definite possibility. A definite possibility. That seems a bit of a weird thing to say. You know what I mean? It's late. I haven't had enough coffee today, but I certainly think they can do it. Regardless of the few that are around them. Also, just isn't it nice to see all this direct football and not as much as this tick-a-tacker stuff, and just like we're passing it for passing its sake. We're seeing Forest and Newcastle and Bournemouth and and Liverpool to that extent. Go for it. Like play that. It's really, really nice to see. So anyway, that was a little bit of a.
It's changing. It's changing. I think definitely there's definitely a swing in a different direction. I mean, just looking at Bournemouth's fixtures there, kind of looking through, you know, who they've got to play. Obviously, they've got to play Brighton, which is a tough game for them. They've got Spurs away. They've got Villa at home as well. They've got Man City away. They've got Arsenal away. You know, these are tough games for Bournemouth, and I think the wheels could definitely come off them, you know, in amongst them fixtures. Liam thinks fourth, lads, fourth. Feel the positivity, mate. But if Newcastle can get into a game and they can get those big players fit and then get the match fitness into the legs of Wilson and Barnes, who can be impact players, Wilson and Barnes could still win us games towards the end of the season. I mean, they both look, you know, rustier than the old gate down the park the tramps used to piss on. You know what I mean? That's how bad they look in terms of coming off the bench. You know, they can hear them fucking bones creaking. You know, Harvey Barnes, I think I've seen Harvey Barnes have a shot in about, you know, how many months now? You know, he's firing blanks, isn't he? You know what I mean? Fucking hell. But, you know, he needs to get a run into, you know, get a goal, or, you know, get into the box, do what he does. You know, Wilson needs to get a bit sharper, you know, and show us what he can do. You know, the FA Cup would be good for those players. They might start in that game against Brighton, maybe try and get themselves a little bit of something going. But there's still good players to come into the squad and get a bit more match fit and could impact us towards the end of the season, you know. But I still think the whole season rides, just to finish up tonight, Mark, the whole season for me rides on March 16th. I think if Newcastle United win that Carabao Cup, I think two things will happen. I think the pressure is off the manager and the players because they've won a trophy, first trophy in 70 odd years. The elation that will just completely engulf the club, the fan base, the squad. I think it'll kick the motivation to finish strong in the league as well. There's so much on that game. As Ty says, their confidence will be flying. You know, if we win that cup, I just feel like that elation, that buzz, that adrenaline, I think could push us into the Champions League. I really do believe that's how important that game is.
My only takeaway from that, and it is just the gap afterwards, and maybe it does them a favour, is but you take all that elation from that cup win on the 16th, and you don't play again until the 2nd of April. So there's a fortnight. Obviously, there's that international break, isn't it? But there's that gap. Then does that work in their favour, and they're able to just, you know, you put all your efforts into the final, it's fortnight just to break and rest and recuperate, or do you kind of take the gloss off it almost by going, well, rather than go, well, cup final on Sunday, we'll run into the next week and go bang, you go up again. Is it Brentford the following game? So you get into the Brentford game, and then it's Leicester and Man U and Palace, and you go, well, those are 4 really winnable games. To take that momentum forward. So it could run away two ways. I just that gap would slightly worry me because you don't want that break in momentum. But what an amazing lift that will be. What an amazing confidence boost to go. First trophy in God knows how many years. And to take that into that final running, take those next 4 games, you get 4 wins, and all of a sudden it's 4th place, could be 3rd, the way things are going, if City continue to slip up. So I'll be a bit more positive than Liam in that regard.
Did you see that noise about Pep being offered a ridiculously big salary from Saudi Arabia as well? Do you think that could be the time to tempt Pep away? He's been a tough season. I know they backed him in the window, but tough season. The charges hanging over them. Do you think he could be tempted to say, "Fuck this"? I'll go over there and count my money and have a big, Arabian Nights fucking castle like Aladdin with flying carpets and Princess Jasmine's in different rooms and shit like that. Do you think you fancy a bit of that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he would particularly fancy. There's an interesting video that was knocking around before of him sort of talking to Salah, and you kind of wonder whether, because obviously with Salah's contract situation at the end of the season, and could he walk that way? Could Pep go?
I think he will. I think he'll win the league and then he'll go. I think Salah will be off.
Could they both end up there, and obviously Pep then managing Salah into his new adventure?
Ty says get Pep on loan from Saudi. That'd be a fucking masterstroke, wouldn't it? But I could see it, Mark. I really could. I think Pep Guardiola's done this before. He's walked away from Barca. That was the love of his life. He walked away from Munich when he was winning trophies. You know what I mean? He's not against walking away. And it's been a tough old season for Pep, and I just wonder where that could be on the cards. Maybe very interesting.
I'm surprised in essence to see when he signed the new contract, it sort of made sense, but then all of a sudden it all went wrong. And I mean, maybe is that City protecting themselves because they want the payout? If he goes, all of a sudden that's a huge chunk of money that has to come their way for his services as well. So maybe that's that of just City protecting themselves and at the same time. And if you've got Pep as your manager, you don't particularly want him to leave unless it goes spectacularly wrong, and it nearly has. But they're still in with a shout at that top 4. Do you want him? Do you want him to go, or are you happy to take if you're a City fan, are you happy to take a massive chunk of money for him to go and manage in Saudi, and then you move on to whoever then comes in next? And
who the hell would replace him? Well, Sorry, I couldn't resist, man. I couldn't resist. I had to get that in there.
I forgot I was there.
Yeah, I'm glad you hadn't deleted it.
I left it.
Exactly. But we'll end on a little Bruceism there. We'll leave it at that. Evening to you, Steve. Hope you enjoyed your kebabs down in Blackpool, mate. But thank you very much for jumping in the chat as always, guys. Thank you so much to those who jumped in and had a chat with us live as well. We will be doing this one once a month as well. So remember next time, guys, if you remember, check that community tab, click on that link and come and join us. I know it's a little bit late for some of us, but it's great to have a chat with the rest of you, especially on camera, like we did earlier on with Chippers and Steve. And you'd be more than welcome on the next What's Gannin On With You. We'll be back tomorrow. There'll be a preview for the Liverpool game, and then we'll be back live with post-match reaction to the Liverpool game on Wednesday. Hopefully, I won't have aged 6 years while Mo Salah has terrorised us, and I'll be in a bit more of a happier mood, guys. But thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Help get us to the 10K. We are really, really close. We're within 30 subs.
22 away.
22 away, says Mark. 22 away. So we're really, really close. We've got an absolutely belter prize for the 10K subscriber. No matter what it is, we've got one prize that's really good and a couple of prizes that are absolutely mint from one of our members who offered to give us some brilliant stuff for giveaways, which I'm going to go hopefully pick up in the next couple of weeks as well. But they
I just say, what an absolute legend for that as well.
Absolute legend, absolute star. And they will certainly be getting a shout out as and when we get those prizes to give away. But they are mint prizes for 10K. Thank you for all of your support, guys. We always appreciate it. Again, like I say, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a belt or whatever you're doing, and we'll see you hopefully on Wednesday for the live post match. Take it easy.
Take care.